Hello everybody and welcome back to the Garibaldi Red podcast, a Nottingham Forest podcast from Nottinghamshire Live, sponsored by NordVPN. We were delighted to have a brand new sponsor of the podcast, so thank you to NordVPN for sponsoring. They are your best VPN service. You can find out all the details in the description below. And as Nottingham Forest open their Premier League season off with a huge win over Brentford, 3-1 at the City Ground in front of an electric atmosphere. We will discuss all of that, plus the goal from Dan Ndoye, which will do his confidence the world of good. We'll also talk Callum Hudson-Odoi, which seems to be a bit confusing saying both their names at the minute, and Chris Wood's brilliantly taken goal and instinct, plus lots more, and everything that happened at the City Ground yesterday. Joined by my two favourites, no disrespect to any of the other podcast regulars. That's going to come and get me in a few weeks when I keep saying it to them.
Go on with you.
And nice to have them back for a brand new season. Sara and Dave Astbury. Sara, we'll start with you at work with your headset on in the cupboard. You were just telling us before you came on air that you've been winding all the Leicester fans up at work this morning, so you must be delighted.
Well, I've got one Leicester fan, but I think I'll just wind everybody up because they're not all major football fans here. So, I'm a bit full of it this morning. Actually, I'm probably really irritated. In fact, I am really irritated. There's nothing worse than your manager walking into work full of it, is it? Telling them that your fantasy football team, you're number one as well. So, bring it on. It's brilliant.
Absolutely. Dave, how are you, mate? Good summer, and I suppose just nice to get back into the rhythm of another City Ground win yesterday.
Yeah, I've enjoyed the summer. It's been busy at work. I've enjoyed Euro under-21s. I've enjoyed watching the girls win the European Championship. That was fantastic. An incredible test series between England and India. Great racing. Wimbledon was brilliant. Sinner and Alcaraz stuck in my mind. Saving days holiday for European games. If you'd asked me back when the pictures came out in June, I was like, no, it's too early for football. But I'm right back into it. I sort of bimbled through pre-season, but that was probably the best thing because it meant I didn't take any of it seriously other than wanting nobody to get injured. And here we are and arrived at yesterday. So, it's all good, mate. It's all good.
Absolutely. Sara, it almost felt like yesterday Forest continued the good stuff that we had last season. A good City Ground atmosphere, a nice Forza Garibaldi display. The fans were in fine voice, and then they start very early. Chris Wood gets on the score sheet, and almost it's kind of business as usual.
Well, after watching, 450 minutes of football with only seeing one goal by Birmingham? Yeah, I kind of walked into that game yesterday. I was walking towards the City Ground and Mick said to me, "What do you think?" I said, "I don't know. Somebody's telling me we're going to win 4-1." So I wasn't far off, but I could see us getting some goals yesterday, but I daren't dream. But it was laid out for us, really, wasn't it? I mean, we did have a bit of I saw Dave in pre-season. We had a bit of a chinwag at half-time in one of the games. And was that Birmingham? Yeah. I melted at Chesterfield as well. The first game, I was literally melting. We had to move seats. It was so hot. So I didn't make it to Portugal because, like Dave, I'm saving up some holidays and some cash to go to these European games, which hopefully we'll know what they are. But great. Brilliant. I would, everybody was saying he's not going to do what he did last season, and whether he does or he doesn't, he's definitely going to get to his 100, I think, which he's got 9 to go, hasn't he? Didn't disappoint. Is it Ndoye or is it Doy? I'm not sure if the N's are silent, but I was just saying.
Just check my name there. It's Dave Astbury.
I was wondering how you're pronouncing yours, but I was just turning to Mick saying, maybe it might take him a couple of games just to get up to speed with Premier League because he got knocked off the ball. There was a lovely through ball from Morgan Gibbs-White to him that he didn't quite get to. The defender beat him to it, and it just didn't come off for him. And then, literally a minute later, he scores that header, and I went, I just need to keep, saying stuff like I'm jinxing them. So, he shut me up, didn't he, right and proper. So we had a great day. I can't remember what the question was to begin with.
No, it's all right, Sarah. No, you're all good. It was just
I've gone off on a tangent.
No, it's just whether I suppose Forest are back and continuing their business as usual. I mean, it's funny you mentioned about the pronunciation of Ndoye because we had someone that commented on the last podcast when we did the preview with Mark and Sam, and he said that he's a pronunciation expert and he was going to do a mini episode with every single Forest podcast to show them how to pronounce Endoy. And this one that always gets me, obviously we've just announced him today officially as well, is of course the French striker Arnaud Calimendo. So apparently there's lots of pronunciations for that. Dave thinks that I've got it wrong, maybe.
Arnaud Calimuendo. There's a U in there.
Yeah, there is.
It's Arnaud Calim Endo. It rhymes with innuendo, so there's a double meaning to it.
But there's a Sky video with every single Premier League footballer that's doing a video, and I can't pronounce Nuno's. Then we've all been pronouncing it wrong. Because did you hear his? I was like, oh my god, I've got no chance. So Nuno's was just like one word, like his whole 3 names. I was like, yeah, I'm done for. So I'm rubbish anyway at pronunciations.
That video made me laugh, actually. You had like Nico Williams going, what? Say my name? Nico Williams. I think they were all a bit confused why they had to do that at the media day, which was the other week at Forest. So, and you're right, Sarah. Nuno says he's incredibly quick. I think you'd have to put it in play. And
they didn't ask him to repeat it, did they? Or if he did it the same. And it was like...
Yeah, it did make me laugh. Right, Dave. I mean, let's talk about the game, and particularly, I think the first 10 minutes. I mean, Sara mentions their pre-season. There was lots of doubts, wasn't there? Nuno kind of does this interview as well a couple of days before, and then Forest within 6 minutes almost put the doubters and the doubts straight to bed. And Chris Wood, as I've said, almost continues what he used to do last season. So, was there any doubt in your mind going into this one, or pre-season? It is so hard to judge them from pre-season, really, isn't it?
To be honest, Max, I was like on the cusp of 2 stools. I thought pre-season was absolutely fantastic. It gave me massive encouragement. We kept 5 clean sheets. The results are utterly irrelevant. I don't care about pre-season. All I care about pre-season is that all our lads are fit for the stuff that matters. You know what I mean? The last thing, if we'd won every pre-season game 4 or 5-0, and say somebody as crucial, and in my view, the most crucial person in Nikola Milenkovic had picked up a season-ending injury, like James Maddison did for Tottenham, like Levi Colwill did for Chelsea. If we'd won all the pre-season games, and then say, and it's an extreme scenario, lost Milenkovic for the whole season, I'd be devastated. I don't care about pre-season. People who get hung up on pre-season, lots of them got hung up on pre-season, and now they're made to look very, very silly. It's almost like yesterday, Forest would tell you what, let's have a really bland pre-season. Let's wind them up. It was like an act of deception. It was like a strategy. And I always tend to think, if you're going to peak in pre-season and not peak for the stuff that matters, then that's your business, right? And so I was kind of encouraged by the fact that pre-season, that not scoring became a thing. Everybody talked about it. So I thought, yeah, they'll score within 5 minutes, and they did. The only thing that gave me slight trepidation and cause for caution was Nuno's presser and Nuno's interview with David Craig on Sky, where he said, we're not ready, we're not prepared, we're undercooked. Well, I'm telling you, Gaffer, if our lads can play like that, and especially in that scintillating first 45 minutes when you're undercooked, what you're going to be like when you've come full to the boil and you chuck in extra ingredients like Hutchinson, and you chuck in McAtee, and you chuck in Kelly Mwendo. That first 45 minutes was just sublime. It's the best 45 minutes I've seen at the City Ground for a long, long time. You could chuck in Brighton, obviously, because it was a 7-0. You could chuck in that first half against Fulham a couple of seasons back when we won 3-1. We were 3-0 up at half time. But it's almost like Boris went, yeah, we kept our cards close to our chest in pre-season. We led them to believe one thing was the way of doing it, and we've gone and done another. I thought it was astounding. What was so pleasing about it was, to me, it was a clear evolution of style. Last year, it was, you have the ball, we'll sit back and absorb with this brilliant back 5, and then we'll hit you on the counter. No. Who had more possession yesterday? We did. There was a time in the first half where poor old Brentford, who looked a shadow, and it's going to be difficult because Thomas Frank is there, Brian Clough. Keith Andrews has got a nightmare task following him, and they're going to struggle. There was a time when it was coming out of Brentford's box and it was going straight back in again. It was like Forest were toying with them. And it's a long time since we've seen Forest toy with an opposition like that. Maybe Brighton, 7-0. But that was a bit of an outlier. So I saw an evolution in the style. I thought that, we won't be playing that hit on the counter like we did last year, because everybody worked it out. And our defining person in that has gone to Newcastle. But I just thought, you see it, and Nuno's saying, we're not prepared, I haven't got the squad I want. And he may not, given that the workload has gone up by 25%. They've added another one on. So it's Premier League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, Europa League, right? So the workload is going to test the elasticity of that squad, right? And he's probably thinking, I'm not right, because he wants more options. He wants more depth. But there was a continuity. 10 familiar faces started and one new signing, and it just seemed to flow on. I mean, think about it. We'd won 2 out of the last 15. 2 out of 8 at the end of last season and none in pre-season, right? So it's almost like they came out and it's like they've been hiding everything. And then they came out. The first 45 minutes was like I was shocked. I went to see Pat at half time, right? Pat Lally, bless him, shout out to Pat. And we were talking and he goes, what do you think? And I said, mate, add Kelly Moendo, Jimmy McAtee, Amari to this, maybe Douglas Luiz. We're looking at a serious football team here. I kind of was reminded of the way Villa have evolved, and maybe Forest are going that way. But it was just one. And then they get their penalty. We managed the game brilliantly. We nearly saw one of the goals of the season already, which was Morgan about a millimetre over the bar. How he managed to work his body into that situation. He should be coming and doing my stretch classes at the gym. Him seeing that. So it was just. You couldn't wish for anything more on an opening day. It was absolutely stunning. The City ground was full and beautiful and, looked like it had been tarted up a bit. The weather was fantastic. The folks in there loved every minute of it. It's a fabulous platform. It's only one game out of 38, but it's a fantastic start, Max, to be honest.
Sarah, Dave mentions there about almost the style of play almost changing a little bit and whether we'll see more of that this season. We've got so many attacking options almost now that have signed as well. So the bench will be stronger than yesterday. No disrespect to the players on the bench yesterday, but you looked at it and you could tell, well, it's a good job that Hutchinson will be able to be on that bench than the next game. James McAtee, Calamendo, so many other players as well, even Douglas Luiz possibly that could sign in the next week or so. So you look at that bench and think, well, it's going to get stronger and you'll be able to use that in different games. You can have a Premier League starting 11 and a ready, almost Europa League starting 11. But I wonder whether you think that Nuno, as Dave was saying then, will change it up this season. You think that we'll see a different style of play, almost Forest in a way, mentality-wise. The pressure's on us, but Forest have almost proved a point now that we've played counter-attacking football. We were almost challenging. We were a bit like the underdog last season. Well, this season, with the quality we've signed, we're going to be really in the top half of the Premier League. You'd hope that's where most of the bookies have got Forest, bar the odd few that think we're going to go down. But you look at us and think, well, we're a European football side now, so we're going to be chasing the game a lot more rather than waiting for the game to come to us in a way.
Well, I think... he showed that already yesterday, didn't he? That it was a completely different style of play to what we're used to. To me, it reminded me quite a lot of that last year in the Championship, that the way that the players just hunted the opponent down. One did one, then the next one, and you could see Ola coming a lot. They were all hunting them, and they were full of confidence. And I think I listened to an interview with Ola last season saying that they kind of didn't expect to have this counter-attacking football that happened last season, but it kind of happened and it worked well for us. So they carried on with it. It was like that wasn't supposed to be like that. And I think with who we've got coming in, and I don't know, I mean, Morgan Gibbs-White yesterday and Anderson, they've gone up another notch, haven't they? I mean, from what I could see, I mean, it's one game. We'll learn more when we go away to Crystal Palace this week. In all fairness to Brentford, they've always been a strong, solid side and a bit of our nemesis, aren't they, in the league? So, but I think we're going to learn more as we go on, and he's got to manage this squad, and he likes a tight squad, but he's got to have almost the whole of his players that he picks have all got to be as good as each other, almost, with some real, brilliance, flair sprinkled in. And I think that's where we're going with it. I mean, I was discussing this morning about bringing James McAtee and Omari Hutchinson in, and it's like, well, Leicester fans going, well, they want to play, won't they? Or, they don't want to sit on the bench. And I said, well, I think they will sit on the bench. He's got that option now, turn around and think, well, who's coming off the bench? Him, and him, We're not putting the weaker team on the bench going forward, he's going to be wanting to put as strong and sometimes probably stronger coming off the bench that started the game. And that's the exciting thing for all us Forest fans. Watching that game yesterday, it was almost like, yeah, we're back, aren't we? We're back, and we're proper Premiership, team now. We look the business. We should have won that yesterday. On paper, we should have, but the Old Forest would have drawn that, wouldn't they? That's how it felt. It felt like we're in Europe. We should be beating these teams, and hopefully that's what's. I know it's one game. I'll get carried away after one game, But what I saw yesterday was just blew my mind. Blew my mind.
Absolutely. No, I think you're spot on there, and I think you're right, Sarah, about almost on paper Forest should win that game, and on paper Forest should be a team that should start well. So it was nice that you almost live up to that expectation, and maybe there is that, which may come back to bite you at times, but there is that expectation from the fan base now that a team like Brentford, no disrespect to them, that Forest should be going out there and aiming and hoping to really get 3 points. Dave, what do you make to Chris Wood? He gets 2 goals yesterday. He gets the early goal in the first few minutes. Striker's instinct again. If anyone's doubting him, and I was chatting to a few people and they were going, I've been speaking to some other fans of other teams and they're not sure on Chris Wood. Has he still got it in him? He's only got a year left on his contract. He's getting old now, but Chris Wood's the example of never to write anybody off. And I listened to an Arsenal fan as well yesterday, Dave, and he was saying we should have gone out and got somebody like Chris Wood. There are many Premier League teams that wish they could have our striker in their starting 11.
Yeah, the greatest man in my life. His last words before he left us. Have faith in Chris Wood. He'll get goals for Forest. Dad, I don't know. I think he might have just gone over I just think Chris might have just gone over the top. My old man went, he'll get goals. He got goals at Leeds. He got goals at Leicester. He got goals at Burnley. He got goals at Newcastle. And every time I go and see my dad's plaque, because he's scattered on a golf course, my dad, I look at the plaque and I go, yeah, I know. You were right. And I was wrong. And my dad knew football. My dad scouted for various clubs. He knew football and he knew Chris Wood. And I get emotional over Chris Wood because I think Chris Wood is the absolute consummate professional. He looks after himself physically. I'm sure he eats the right things. He's a leader. He's a paragon. He's the others. In that squad you got Willie, who's a kind of the father figure. I think Willie's. You can imagine Willie going onto this coaching staff a bit like Wayne has when Willie finishes. But Woody's a leader. And I think, there's been a lot of lazy narratives because he's not kind of a sexy striker like your Thierry Henrys and your Mo Salahs and all this kind of stuff. He'll get found out. Well, if we're going on opening day last year, he scored 1 goal and they drew up with 20. He scored 2 goals on opening day yesterday. Maybe he'll get 40 this time. I think he's astounding. His goals, the first goal, I think, if you look at it closely, and I studied it last night, it's a thing of wonder. It's a thing of measured, controlled inches and dimensions. He goes up, I think, with Vandenberg and Collins. The ball drops. He's the first to react. The other two kind of come down from this aerial challenge, and they're looking around him. He sees the ball drops, and he sees there's a trajectory, a pathway into the goal by kind of lobbing it over. And his execution was perfect. If this is a guy who's supposed to be over the top, and I'm as guilty as any, Chris has won me over by the sheer force of his personality and his professionalism. Right, that was a fantastic goal. His second goal, he read one of the finest passes we've ever seen at the City Ground. Elliot Anderson, who let's get things straight, is the best under-21 midfielder in the entire continent of Europe because he was the best player in the team that won that. Right. That pass was instinctive and instant, and Chris Wood was the only person in the stadium who read it. I was like, wait, where's that gone? And he took it, and he had all the time in the world. He got Kevin Kelly come to him. He got a little bit of luck, but he took it in the back of the net. Then we're 3-0 up at half time. Chris Wood, I think we ought to sort of, like we should stop giving credence to pre-season. Let's just forget pre-season. We should stop writing Chris Wood off because, Igor Jesus, Arno Kalimuendo, Taiwo, these guys have got a job on to be the number one in the pecking order, because this guy gets the job done. And my admiration for him goes up every time he plays. There'll be some games where he's kind of not in the game, but he gives you so much as a footballer. And I think, he'll go down as a Forest great. He's the only Forest striker to score 20 goals in the Premier League for God knows how long. And I think, we've been bit so often, it's this, he had the season of his life. He can't possibly do it again. So many of these YouTube gonks come on and say it, and they were all wrong. And Chris, it's almost like Chris has sat there and watched it for, right, I'll show them, So he just keeps giving. And thank you to Chris, because I think he's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Forest and Forest players, Dave, have a tendency at the minute to almost continue to show, prove people wrong in a way, and say that
Max, no finer motivation for anybody. I like it when we're written off. So many of them have written us off as overachievers, and Forest will be a big drop off. Well, maybe there will be a drop off, but I don't think it'll be a big drop off. And if anything, yesterday went, would you all like to reconsider? Because that was a statement yesterday. Admittedly, the opposition were poor, and that's the caveat. Sarah's bang on. Next Sunday, we're kind of we're not careful walking into an ambush. That is a massively difficult game. I'd like to think we'll beat West Ham the following week, because I think they're the poorest team in the league, worse than Brentford, right? But next Sunday, we will discover whether yesterday was a false dawn or not. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think it'll be a big game anyway, given the off the pitch stuff. So I'm not going. So I'm slightly gutted. I was looking forward to dress up as an email or something, or dress up as Marinakis.
Max, I'm already armed. I'm taking my nitroglycerine nuclear missile here, so I should be all right.
It's a wonder they allow you that into a football ground, Dave. They normally take your cap off, don't they?
It's dilutable Vimto. Sorry, Mr. Astbury, you can't bring that in here.
A few comments on the podcast. Adam says, Nuno knows we need multiple ways of playing. The counter-attack style be used against the big teams. Yeah, that's a good point, especially in the more difficult games if we progress through the Europa League. Yeah. This one, to my eternal shame, I removed Chris Wood from my fantasy team this season. I got to do mine, so there you go. I think he'll be earning people double and triple points throughout the season. Let's talk about somebody else, and we'll get on to Gibbs White and Anderson in a short while. But Dan Indoy, who we briefly mentioned at the start, at Sara, but a lot to prove. He looked a little bit nervous, I thought, in the first 5 or 10 minutes, but an excellent cross from Morgan. And for him to find himself at the end of it, took the header so well, brought it down, back of the net. Keeper had no chance. He does his, I'm not going to recreate it, even though I attempted to then with my hands. He does that course, Dave does it, the course celebration. And, how much will it do his confidence the world of good as well? Because any player that's starting in the Premier League, that's in a brand new competition, these people are human, footballers are human. He's moved from South America. No, he hasn't. Where did he move from?
Bologna.
Yeah, Bologna. Sorry. That's me getting confused with all the South American players. To almost does his confidence the world of good in the first half to get a goal.
Well, I said it earlier, didn't I? Sat there thinking we might have to give him a few games, and then he put me straight, didn't he? What a beautiful goal! He was nowhere near it, and I think in his interview he said it was a bit far in front of him, so he really had to dive, and get the power on the ball was, and Keller was nowhere near it, was he really? And it was lovely. I never thought for 1 minute he was offside, to be honest. I just celebrated the goal. It wasn't until I watched Match of the Day later that I think they were looking at it. So he's great, and he's looking over his shoulder, isn't he? Because he's got to keep it up, because there's other ones that will take his place there, won't they? Because I think we've got some players sat in the stands that can play left or right, if I'm right. So we've got so he's got to keep it on, and there's no better way, is it? I thought he did well for his first game. He seems a really nice guy. He fits in the squad really well. He spoke really well. he gave everything yesterday. He seems happy to be here. And wasn't it nice seeing Elanga's replacement scoring when Elanga was 1-on-1 and didn't? I don't know about you, but I think it was like, I'm sure Ola Aina was on the phone last night going, we won ours. And our new winger scored, mate. So I'm sure they're still talking to Elanga and winding him up. So yeah, he was very good. I can't, apart from him, like I said, he didn't win all of his light runs, and the ball from Morgan, he didn't get on, and he got shepherded out a few bits. He got knocked off the ball, and I immediately said he needs a few weights in the gym. But he's just arrived in England, and I think all of that, it's remarkable how he's settled in already, and it's great. And then it's great that he scored, because I don't think any of us really thought he was going to score on his first game.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. I think it will do his, like I say, do his confidence a good, and as well, I think it goes to show that the recruitment's been spot on this summer. There's been, I think it was slow at the start, but I think you have to understand that the club were, a lot of these potential signings that have come through the door, 4 or 5 in a row, they were all on hold because we didn't ultimately know what European competition you're playing in. So
it certainly sounds like it.
Yeah. And I think if we were in the Conference League, maybe we'd have gone, well, we don't maybe need all those options that are going to come through the door. But you're right as well about Amari Hutchinson probably breathing down. He's going to be really up for it. I like Hutchinson as well. I think he's a brilliant signing. So and he offers a lot. He's a very versatile player, so it'll be interesting to see how kind of Nuno sets up away at Palace. Probably goes with the same formation ultimately, and we find a lot of those players on the bench, but you never know. Dave, let's talk Elliot Anderson, because yesterday, here's a stat for you to throw it to you. He covered more distance than any player on the pitch. A total of 11.3 kilometres between Forest and Brentford yesterday. He also completed the most passes, which was 64, and he was also the most fouled player. So that probably goes to show how creative he is. And look, we talk about him most weeks on the podcast, whether that was last season, and we're going to be talking about him most weeks on the podcast this season, because Elliot Anderson continues, for me, to be the most crucial signing in recent times. Certainly, probably, I'd argue in my lifetime of supporting Forest, one of the best signings we have ever made. Another player that was written off, another player that had something to prove, but he's done it. He did it last season, and he's continued to do it this season. And great performance from him yesterday.
He was sublime, Max. He was absolutely brilliant. He was brilliant throughout the Euro under 21s. And a couple of his mates from the Euro under 21s, fellow European champions, are going to come and join him to play for us. I just love this lad. He's so unassuming. He doesn't seek the limelight. He's the ultimate team player. He's just he can do everything. He can sit and defend. He's a brilliant lad at nipping a ball off a guy's foot, coming on the blind side of a guy and robbing the guy of a ball. He can run with the ball. He can hit long passes. He can hit short passes. He maybe just needs to add a goal or two. And not because we're like crying out for goals for Elliot Anderson. I'm crying out for a goal for Elliot Anderson for Elliot. Because I remember when he scored against Southampton last year, the joy of him scoring. And the thing is, it gets him to show more emotion than he normally does. Because I think he's Mr. Stoneface. He doesn't show anything. In fact, the only time I've seen Elliot Anderson utterly ecstatic was when he was with his dad at Wembley and Newcastle won the Carabao Cup. And he was like, and I'm thinking, that's not like Elliot. He scored a penalty against Spain in the Euro under 21s. And he kind of went up, knocked it in. A bit like he scored the penalty at Brighton in the shootout in the quarter-final. I remember he walked the length of the field at Brighton. They were all waving the scarves, giving him the fingers and all that kind of. He just walked up, stuck in the back of the net, and walked away as if he walked across the high street like me and stuck an envelope in the post box across the road. Right? He does everything with a minimum of fuss, and he's not look at me. And there are always going to be players that look at me, not Elliot Anderson. I think he's a nailed-on England international. I'm going to stick my neck out and say he'll go to the World Cup with England if they qualify, right, and they should do. I just hope Mr. Tuchel's been doing his homework and researching this lad, because this lad, he can fit into a team in different places. I thought our midfield balance yesterday was beautiful. I thought Ibra Sangare had his best game for Forest yesterday. poor lad's had malaria. Let's hope he's got rid of that and he's coming good. And he might feel like a new signing because it's taken him 2 years and he's had no luck with injuries and illness and whatever else, And then Elliot doing Elliot things, and then it allowed, MGW to go and basically run the game and boss it and outclass the people in there. But Elliot Anderson, I just think he's what a pickup. When he first came, I kind of had him down as a winger who'd been surplus to requirements of Newcastle and slightly on the fringe of things. And I'd never expected him to be as good as he's been, but he's utterly endeared himself to me. And I think he's utterly endeared himself to the fan base. I mean, it's interesting. Morgan got the man of the match from Sky, I think. And that's a shout because Morgan was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But it was Elliot that got the Premier League man of the match award, And so it just tells you this lad, in his own quiet, understated, no fuss way, is forging a real reputation. He's with all the best will in the world, and let's hope he stays healthy. What a career he's going to have! I absolutely adore him. I love him.
I mean, you mentioned there, Dave, about Elliot Anderson being in the next England squad in terms of the next major tournament, fingers crossed. And Morgan Gibbs-White should be as well, really. And of course, Morgan's already had his call up. Sarah,
do you know, Matt? Sorry, Matt, just to interrupt, and apologies for that. Harvey Elliott won the Player of the Tournament at the Euro Under-21s because he scored some goals. But if you listen to most of the pundits on that show, on the shows, your Joe Harts, your Joe Coles, Crouchies and people like that, they all picked Elliot Anderson as the best player in the tournament. And I saw most of their games in that tournament. I really enjoyed it. And Elliot Anderson, to me, just stood out. He seemed to be everywhere. He's like a stealth bomber. He just turns up. You don't know he's there, and there he is. And I think, to me, he's the best under-21 midfielder in Europe.
What about Morgan Gibbs-White, Sarah? I mean, everything just worked for him yesterday, kind of the fancy flicks and the technical element of his game. And the Forest fans were still in fine voice for him. So I think all is forgiven in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried really about how the Forest fans feel about Morgan because I saw that at the Chesterfield home game, the friendly, when we all thought he was going. And we were like almost thinking we were saying goodbye to him and they were chanting his name. And, I think he was a bit shocked at that game because he had his head down when he came out and he was a bit like, are they going to boo me? And we chanted his name and I think he was like, wow, and then clapping him and giving him a standing ovation. But yesterday, I think he doesn't need to talk, does he? He doesn't need to do any interviews. He doesn't need to say anything. He did it all on the pitch yesterday. I think it could have been one of his best games. Honestly, I love to see him doing those pirouettes. He's like, I say it all the time, he's like a ballerina on a football pitch. He pirouettes, he turns, he gets those balls that you shouldn't be able to get. He stretches. He's like Mr. Gadget. Suddenly his leg's out there and it's like he's over here. And it's like, how's he done that? And I know he frustrates some of the fans sometimes, but that's the player he is. You could see he wasn't fit in pre-season. He missed those, certainly early on in pre-season. He missed those connections from the players with the ball and he was going past him he was like, but yesterday virtually everything came off, didn't it, apart from that goal. And that would have just summed his day up, that goal, wouldn't it? I mean, that would have been one of the goals of the season. He was absolutely sensational, and I think that's what they called him on Match of the Day. And wow, he deserved that, didn't he? Because he was absolutely, with all of that going around him all summer. He's just had a baby. He's got everything going on in his personal life. He's got the whole of the Premier League fan base and the media, the world media watching him, how he was going to. And that is why Thomas Frank wanted him at Tottenham. And that is why Tottenham wanted him, because, wow, what a player. And what he's going to bring to our team, leadership, strength, character, and that magic star dust sprinkling of, he's just unbelievable. And his vision he's got when he's playing. I mean, that ball for the goal for Endoy, he did one. That was Woods, but he did one earlier for Endoy, didn't he? Yeah. And that could have eased. I think if that had been Chris Wood, that would have been a goal. And even when second half, when they were playing to Trent End, his connections with Callum Hudson-Odoi were just, because I'm that side of it. I just thought, God, this is just unbelievable. I was just amazed on how good he was yesterday. I don't know what everyone else thought, but I can't say a bad word. And it was so difficult because sitting there, my husband's going, Anderson's man of the match for me, Anderson, and they gave it to Morgan Gibbs-White but then Sky gave it to Anderson, like Dave said, Endoiv said. So
just testing it up.
But they were both man of the match for me for different reasons. And here we are talking about Anderson and Gibbs-White, and Wood scored a brace, and he wasn't even mentioned as man of the match. Ola Aina had a fantastic game.
Yeah, Nico Williams, a left back playing as an inside forward the whole time.
Sankore, they all had Sells, yeah.
Sells.
I mean,
one save.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought they could have all been man of the match in any Monday normal weekend game.
Yeah.
But we were struggling to split hairs between Morgan and Anderson, and I think they both were for different reasons. But yeah, no, Morgan was fantastic yesterday, and he was everything what we know he can be. And without him, there's something missing when we don't have him in the team, and we've seen that when he's not played in a league game. So yeah, I was glad to see him back. I just hope we see another year from him, and he looked brilliant. And there was no knife up the side at the back of him either, was there, yesterday?
And to take your point, Sarah, about how important he is, part of Nuno's obsessed with this lack of options, lack of different taxis off the cab rank, yeah? So he said it in his presser. He said it in his interview with David Craig on Sky. He reiterated it to Colin after the match. Colin goes, does that allay your fears, Nuno? Nuno went, no. The worries remain. We need to be more deep. We need to be better prepared. My view is that James McAtee is the guy to step in. Should we? Let's hope it doesn't happen. Say we lose Morg. McAtee was bought to kind of fill that gap, and this is, I think, what he's after. He wants quality at every position. So if you like, we're still a little bit light on fullbacks. We've got a bit more in centre halves, and Milenkovic did Moo and Milenkovic things yesterday. I think it was a bit sad at the end when Moo was about to kind of rifle a free kick from 40 yards onto my head in the Trent End, and the ref Banksy blew his whistle as if say, and Burrow Murillo was like left there thwarted. I can go on, mate, hit it, smash it, right? All of them were terrific. It's a bit unfair actually to single some out, but I think this is where Nuno is going. He wants to have cover for his kind of key people, but the way they all played, Callum had a really good game. There was nobody who played poorly. Like I say, the caveat is that the opposition yesterday were a shadow of what they've been these last 3 or 4 years. They've been a good, solid Premier League team, Brentford, well coached, well run. I'm sure they'll be all right because they're the well-run club that will regenerate, a bit like Bournemouth will, a bit like Brighton always do, Palace, But yeah, it was just.
Can I just mention Callum Hudson-Odoi's pass towards the end of the game yesterday? Did you see that? It was about 80 odd minutes, I think, and he did something with the ball I didn't think was possible, because he kicked it in a way and the ball went did a weird, it kind of went around the player, the defender, and then wiggled like in an S shape. And me and Mick both
his foot went like that, didn't it though?
Oh, honestly, I've never. That's what I mean by when I say I love Callum Hudson-Odoi's class. He is like fives. He's like top-notch class. He turns up with his diamond shorts. No wonder, because that was, for me, I was like, wow, and it seemed to go over everybody's head, because what we've been watching all day, we'd been watching this magnificent team playing like that. I know I'm getting carried away, and I know it's the first game, and I know we're at the City Ground, I know it's against Brentford, but what we saw yesterday was just marvellous.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, good points. It was a nice pass from Callum. I thought he had an excellent game. There's so many players to mention. Just before we go, Sarah, give me your ideal how do you feel going into the next few weeks? We'll find out the Europa League opponents soon. That's very imminent, isn't it? The draw there. So we're going to find out kind of when those fixtures come out and everything like that. But what do you think this season in terms of the Premier League? Forest have had now 3 seasons in the Premier League. We've got comfortable. It seems like every season we've improved. We obviously improved massively last season. We've got Nuno. We've got these players that are coming through the door. There's ambition from Marinakis. We seem to be a Premier League ran club now, and everyone expects Forest to be on almost the name of the Premier League fixtures when they come out. So what do you expect this season almost from the team? What do you think?
From where we might end up. I think we talked about this in the pub before we started. So we started with Premier League positions, and it went anywhere from 3rd or 4th to 15th, between about 8 of us in the pub. So I think I went 9th before seeing them yesterday, because I thought we might have a bit of a drop off. I don't think it'll be massive, but we've got a lot of competitions. We've got a better squad. But I thought we'd go deep into the Europa, and I'd like to see us in the final. And that final could be us and Aston Villa, unless we meet them earlier. So I know there's some good European teams in there as well. I know there is. So that's what I kind of think. And I wouldn't be surprised if we don't have another cup run in the FA Cup or the league. But I was going for 9th. After yesterday, I'd probably said 4th. But that's one game. So I was trying to be a bit realistic when I was looking at the league position. But I think we should be strong. I think we'll give everybody a good game. We might have the odd bad game like you always do, but whether we play that style every week, like you mentioned earlier, probably not away. We might have to be a little bit less forward. But I think we're looking good, aren't we? And Nuno's interview, I think if you watch the whole interview, because Sky seemed to put the worst of it out, if you like, the one that was going to get the headlines. I think they've drip fed the rest of the interview out, and it gives it a bit more context. And I think he's got high standards. So I think he's got a high standard, and he's got a higher standard. And I think he's expecting to be where he wants to be at the start of the season, and we're perhaps just not there. But when we get these rest of these players in, we will be. But yeah, I think we'll be fine. I mean, go after pre-season, I was going, as long as we're safe this year, and we do have a decent cup run, because I think Marinakis wants a cup, doesn't he? He wants a cup. So yeah. I'd like to see, after listening to the Palace fans who now talk down to us because they've won a cup, that they think it's 35 years since you've won a cup and we've just won one. It's took 125 years to win that one. We're going into our 160th year. Wouldn't it be nice to have a cup this year of any description?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree. I think we're more likely to see a bit of a drop off in the Premier League, but I do think Forest will get to the last stage of the Europa League. I was going to ask you, Dave. I mean, I'd say anywhere from. I think again a mid-table finish, bit of an FA Cup run. But whether that becomes a bit of a distraction, so we might not have an FA Cup run, we might forget almost those 2 competitions here, and then you might get to the final of the Europa League, and that'd be a pretty good season.
You stuck a microphone in my face at the end of last season, Max, when you were working for
I did.
Sleeper Football. You said, will we get European football? I went, yes. You said, where do you think Forest will finish next season? I said 12th. And I've stuck to that. I've stuck to that 12th. But I was on with the lads last night, Ben and Dor and Pat, and they put me on the spot, the boys did. And I'm like, no, I've been saying 12. They were taking the piss because they thought I was going to say, give me 17th, which I have done for so long, right? You just want to, my first thought really going into a season is, are there at least 3 teams worse than us? And thank you very much to West Ham United, who are the worst team in the league, Burnley and Brentford. I don't think Wolves are as bad as them 3. So there are at least 3 teams worse than us. But after yesterday, and I've gone a bit gung-ho, Max, I kind of said 8th, because there were so many glimpses into something that could be really exciting yesterday. Yeah, as Sarah says, it's the first game. There's a little bit of woo tiger involved. easy, you know what I mean? We might go to Palace next week, get thumped, and then everything changes again. That's the nature of football. You get on the roller coaster and you ride, and you go where it takes you. But I saw enough yesterday. My overriding thought yesterday was this team, apparently, according to the head coach, is nowhere near where he wants it to be. You know, it's still in the oven. It's still cooking when it's fully cooked. And like you say, you add these other guys in, like, you know, Kelly Mwendo, McAtee, Hutchinson. I don't think it'll stop there. Maybe Louise will come in. I know there are some who don't want Louise because he doesn't kind of fit this idea of a younger player coming in, developing him and selling him for profit. And maybe I can see that point of view. I'd like him in. Villa got lucky. When Louise left, Villa got lucky because Yuri Tielemans stepped up. At the time, when Yuri Tielemans was bought by Villa from Leicester, he was very much Douglas Luiz's understudy. And if Douglas Luiz had stayed, Tielemans would have had to fight for his place. So there's some kind of gravitas to Douglas Luiz, right? I still think we need another fullback. You know, maybe I looked at Rico Henry yesterday, and but for an injury, you know, that kept him out for most of last season. Rico Henry is a good left back, and I looked at him. I thought he would suit us. You know, Leif Davis has been mentioned, so it's this idea of what we had yesterday kind of took me by surprise. I thought before yesterday, I thought we might have to be patient, a slightly slower start to the season, and then we come alive when all the pieces kind of come to fit. I mean, Palace last year didn't win in the first 9, and then had the greatest season in their history. You know, maybe certainly on the field, certainly not in the office and administrative section, because I think they had problems with, you know, I mean, email. I don't know. Most of us know how to work email these days, and we also understand deadlines and blind trusts and things like that. But I think before next week's match, Forest are sending a team of administrators to help them in their office, so that'd be quite nice. You know, so I was a bit prepared for it to be a bit of a scrappy draw. But yesterday was like, it's almost like they were giving you a brochure and saying, this is what we hope to be. And you kind of think, if that's the evidence, then I have a right to be excited. Like Sara said, there'll be bumps in the road. We're not going to do, you know, we're not going to replicate what we did yesterday against a lot of teams. I mean, you know, there's some good sides in this league, you know, who have greater resources than us. But as an opening night performance, if you like, you couldn't have asked for much more from everybody: players, staff, fans, stadium, weather. It was a great day to be a Nottingham Forest fan, and it provides a lot of hope. Let's hope that hope doesn't kill us.
Yeah, no, spot on, mate. Some nice words. I agree. It was a good opening day. They need to work on the queues by the main stand now. I've got to say, it was a nightmare getting in with these blooming tickets and digital. Luckily, my digital ticket worked, but my brother's, well, I think my brother tried to use the physical one and then it didn't work, so he had to go to the ticket office and do all that and get it on his phone and download. So digital's the way forward, so check your emails. Thanks both as ever, great to have you back on. Brilliant, again, discussing another Forest win. Fingers crossed we're discussing one next week as well, away at Crystal Palace. That's Sunday, so we'll be back for a preview episode towards the end of this week. Fingers crossed, can't guarantee, but hopefully. And then we'll have a review episode as well, which will probably come Sunday evening or Monday morning. So this time next week. Thanks for all the support. Give us a like, share and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us across Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And as ever, we are now sponsored by NordVPN. So to get the best discount off your NordVPN, go to nordvpn.com/Garibaldi. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on your 2-year plan. So make sure you do that and check your emails. Don't laugh, Dave. Don't laugh. Hey, I'm good. I could get a job doing adverts. Just come in. I could get a job. I could get a job doing voiceover reads. Thanks both as ever. We'll see you all soon. Come on, you Reds. See you later.